Dear learners, welcome you all to this module on the challenges of distance and digital education or online education, which is module 3 of week 12 of the online course on Introduction to Distance and Digital Education. The basic objectives of this module are to identify the challenges in open learning, to explain the challenges faced by the learners in ODL or open and distance or e-learning or open learning, to discuss the problems faced by the teachers of the ODL institutions or open learning institutions, to elaborate the challenges in front of the institution offering open and distance education as well as online education, and identify some of the possible solutions to the barriers and challenges. As we know, open and distance education has been immersed in the fastest way in the most recent years. We have also seen that the emergence of new mechanisms and tools to support open and distance learning, following which may changes have occurred in the field of open and distance education or open learning. For example, the previous practice of distributing printed learning materials by post to the distance learners has become obsolete following the successful integration of ODE to new media, information and communication technologies. However, one should not forget about the fact that three parties are always involved in open learning system, which are namely the distance learners or students, the teachers or faculty members, or the counselors, and third, the institutions or the universities offering distance and online learning. Although open and distance learning has experienced a revolutionary development in the 21st century in the entire globe, all the three parties, that is the learner, the teacher and the institutions, have been facing a lot of barriers and challenges hindering the effectiveness of ODE or open learning, which has otherwise the potential for an explosive growth of an acceptance. An attempt has been made in this module to discuss the barriers and challenges faced by the open learning institution in general, especially in the context of the country like India. Open and distance education has been an increasingly important aspect of higher education in today's world. It has succeeded in meeting the needs of an expanding range of learners who find education necessary for certain arena of their lives. Although open and distance education provides a convenient, flexible and manageable alternative for the deprived learners in our society, it has never been free from barriers and challenges. Hence, every open educational institute must try to first understand and identify these challenges and then devise solvable measures to these problems. For example, one of the most common problems in open and distance education is the absence of teachers, an issue having a deep pedagogic significance. However, in the following section or in the following lecture, we shall try to discuss in some length some of the most common barriers and some of the challenges faced by the open and distance learning institutions in general. So, what are the challenges basically faced by the learners? Perhaps the most important problem faced by the learner of the open and distance education system is the feeling of isolation and marginalization. As face-to-face contact is not considered a part of open and distance education, most learners often feel the absence of the real person to talk to and communicate his or her understanding and confusions. This is one of the major problems faced by the open education system in general, although the various processes of guidance and counseling have undergone different positive changes in the recent years. Besides the feeling isolation, the challenges of bridging the gap between the teacher and the learners within a new and technologically advanced learning environment have invited serious attention and discussion. Hence, issues like tutorials, contact and counseling session, or guidance of any sort have to be reconsidered as a part of the real interaction between the teachers and the learners in relation to the changing educational processes, which offer both opportunities and problems. There is no denying the fact that without the learner support services, open and distance education cannot function. These services can very well address the academic and personal problems of the learners with the objectives of solving their problems and providing them regular feedback on their performance. As the absence of regular and direct contact with the learners as they are placed at a distance remains a common characteristic features of the ODL in general, a strong learner support system or services needs to be ensured. Although support services are numerous in terms of the counseling and feedback, up to the study materials, media support services, etc., the learners are facing different types of problem because of the distance. These problems have added more to the isolation in the distance learning process, complicating the things further. Learning materials in printed form can stimulate the knowledge base of the learners to a great significance. However, the problem relating to the question of acceptability still lingers. Can such materials directly claim usefulness as a strong learner support service? Can they really be used as substitutes of the teachers, as these materials are emphatically called the teacher in print? Alternatively, do the learners need some external help other than the learning materials? In most cases, the experiences shows that once the learner is enrolled, no support service actually reaches that learner. Generally speaking, nearly all distance learners in developing countries often face insecurities due to reasons like common perception of the society against open and distance education, the perceived irrelevance of the studies they have undertaken, lack of adequate support from the employers, and above all, their feeling of isolation being a graduate or a postgraduate from an open learning institute. Such issues needs to be taken seriously, without which these problems shall remain as problems. Many of the distance learners often find that design and content of the study materials don't meet their needs. This has been a deep problem for those learners who are the first time to the system. This adversely affects the students or learners, and the poorly designed course materials may contribute to the attrition rates. So, however, the dropout rate or attrition rate. However, one may argue that the use of information and communication technology has eased many of the difficulties of the learners. But the learners hailing from the most remote areas as well as difficult terrains don't usually have any idea regarding the use of ICT for learning purpose. Another common problem in open learning is the lack of students to students communication. Unlike in the conventional mode where the students are taught in a group environment and where students can learn and share information with their peers, open and distance education as an educational system is not based on mass peer-to-peer interaction. Without this type of communication, distance education programs usually turn out to be only the transfer of information, not learning in the true sense. So, what are the challenges faced by the teachers? Many teachers, educators, or faculty members of Open Learning Institute often face the problems of their service tenure, as many of the open education institutions in the developing countries either don't have permanent teaching staff or have only a few permanent staff. The unacceptable terms and conditions of appointment, especially in the field of open and distance education in a country like India, has made many of the prospective teachers confused before joining an ODL institute. This means that open and distance learning institutions have failed to absorb serious and competent people as teachers in this system of education. As the self-learning materials, both in print and electronic format, are the backbone of any open and distance education system. Lot of serious efforts usually do in the design and preparation of distance learning materials. This tremendously increased the workload on the part of the teachers, who are also the course writers, editors, and the instructional designers. Besides, these teachers and the educators in open and distance education need to perform several critical jobs which eat into their own reading time, thereby affecting their knowledge base significantly. Thus, the nature of work on the part of distance teacher is more of a manager than of a teacher. Another challenge that needs to be seriously discussed is the presence of learners belonging to different age groups. The fact is that the learning ability among the learners of different age groups can never be similar. When the large majority of the distance learners are adults and beyond the age of 40 years, the educators may find it quite challenging to teach them by changing their teaching style. And this is not an easy task. Only properly trained and experienced teachers can only do that, and this type of teachers are very hard to get at this stage of open and distance learning institute or education system. Due to the paucity of the sufficient human resources, many open and distance learning institutions are dependent on the teachers of the conventional mode of education in the capacity of course writers, editors, counselors, evaluators, and so on. However, the fact is that many of them who are teaching or associated with the conventional system might not like the idea of distance learning or might not want to be associated with the open and distance education system. So long as the teachers from the regular mode colleges and universities feel that there is a burden associated with the distance education program currently in place, there will be a little support from their side towards distance education opportunities, and this has harmed the system like anything. Challenges related to use of ICT is yet another problem for the teachers of open and distance education. To make use of the modern education technology, it is a paramount importance that modern cyber parlor or video conferencing should be established, leading to the use of computers. Thus, a new mindset with creative environment is essentially imperative. However, there are the existing teachers and educators in open and distance education well versed with the use of modern technologies of communication is perhaps the biggest question when a country like India is experiencing a quantum leap in introducing OERs or open educational resources and massive open online courses for the benefits of the distance learners. So, challenges by the open learning institutions. When we talk about the challenges faced by the open learning institution, as we can see, many of the institutions themselves are facing a lot of challenges. Say, in the several of the open learning institutions of the present times, academic programs are run based on the tried and tested method only. However, there has been an increase in alternative work arrangement with flexible time and work at home arrangement on the part of the learners. Therefore, the open and distance educational institutions may devise programs that promote greater individual responsibility as well as increasing learners' autonomy. Besides, as the social patterns too are changing, learners should be encouraged to balance their involvements with their commitments to work. Therefore, the ODE institutions of the present times must change their educational pattern to cater to the needs of the newly emergent learners in the 21st century. But many of the open universities are not seen to have adopted any measures to tackle such problems so far. In matters relating to the use of technologically aided education for the greater benefits of the learners, the open learning institutions need to formulate a clear ICT-based policy, in the absence of which the implementation process always becomes a problem. Besides, there cannot be an adequate learning environment without a proper institutional policy. In the absence of a policy, the last person on the queue may miss out. This has been one of the biggest problems in the field of open learning. Integration of technology into the teaching and learning transaction needs adequate investment and funds. In addition, in many of the private open learning institutions, the learners are forced to incur the cost of technology. Learners may decide not to join the course of that institution, and the problem continues. Besides, Technology changes everything, not merely adds something new. New technologies make war against old ones. Therefore, while planning to introduce new technology, the Open Learning Institute must try to ensure for how long that particular technology is going to last and benefit the learners. The common belief is that distance courses are inferior to traditional courses. This reduces the motivation of teachers and the students or learners to a significant extent. This is one of the biggest challenges faced by the Open Learning Institution in India. To prove this belief wrong, the concerted efforts need to ensure the quality in content and the delivery of distance learning courses so that they are never inferior to any of the regular on-campus courses. Similarly, the open learning institutions must try out some measures to incentivize their employees as a means of increasing output, which may in turn attract competent person to join this system. However, there is a lack of goodwill among the administrators and policymakers of the open learning. Assessing students' performance is yet another big problem on the part of the open learning institution. How to do assessment of the performance and the learning outcome of the learners once they pass out of that institute. So far, very few open university or the institutions have taken cognizance to the matter, as the success rate in the Indian higher education is determined not by proposed learning outcome but by a significant increase in the gross enrollment ratio. And the open learning institution in a developing country like India are judged only in terms of their contribution to GER, not in terms of anything else. Two most common challenges faced by the distance education institution have been the significant dropout rate and the downfall in pass percentage. The reason behind these problems may be fact that both the private and government sectors are not considered the degree issued by open learning institutions valid or at par with those issued by the conventional institutions. Although the University Grants Commission has clear notification regarding the equivalence of the degrees, moreover, the increasing dropout rate are mostly due to students' support system not reaching the learners on time. Similarly, the total absence of face-to-face interaction may also reduce the students' enrollments to a significant extent. The open learning institutions, including the open universities, may come up with the solution to such problems. Due to a large number of students getting enrolled in the open learning system every year, evaluation of these learners has been a major challenge. Although measures are available to meet the challenges related to evaluation, conducting term and examination has always been a problem for nearly all ODL institutions. Moreover, the use of a large-scale unfair means to pass the examination has become a social menace that has mailed the image of an open learning institute offering programs through the distance mode. Challenges faced regarding online learning implementation. While online and blended learning offers numerous benefits, its successful implementation requires careful planning, infrastructure support, and capacity building. Addressing these issues related to digital divide, internet connectivity, digital literacy, and the teacher training is crucial to ensure equitable access and effective utilization of online and blended technologies. Moreover, there is a need to develop quality digital content, align curriculum with learning outcomes, and establish a robust monitoring and evaluation mechanism to assess the impact of online learning on students' learning outcomes and overall educational quality. So, infrastructure and connectivity is very much essential. So, ensuring a robust infrastructure and internet connectivity, especially in rural and unserved areas, remains a critical challenge for the effective implementation of online and blended learning initiatives. Digital divide is another very big challenge or very threat for offering equitable learning or quality learning opportunity to all. Addressing the digital divide is imperative to prevent exacerbating existing inequalities. Efforts must be made to provide equitable access to digital devices and internet connectivity to all learners, irrespective of their socio-economic background. Pedagogical information is another big challenge. Say integrating blended learning or online learning necessitates a paradigm shift in pedagogical approach and research training methodologies. Comprehensive professional development programs must be designed to equip educators with the requisite skills and competences for effective implementation. The delivery of blended learning as well as online learning is based on both synchronous and asynchronous technology, as we have already discussed in the previous unit of the week. However, there are some challenges in terms of requirement of advanced technical infrastructure and skill, quality of engagement which is dependent on facilitators' skill, no immediate access to instructor, etc. The big challenge for providing a smooth online learning environment to the students. Now the question comes, how to overcome the challenges in Open Learning Institute? As we have tried to discuss some of the challenges faced by the teachers and the learners of the open learning system as well as the institutions themselves. However, along with the problems, there are solutions as well. Therefore, the challenges in open learning should not remain as problems, and due measures need to be undertaken to overcome all types of barriers. With the increasing need to introduce technology into the teaching learning transaction to suit modern day requirements, the learners from different remote and difficult terrains shall require training in the use of the tools. However, similar is the case with the teachers, educators, and the instructors working at different capacities. They too shall require focused training on ICT tools in order to make effective use of the technologies involved. The open and distance learning education institutions providers need to ensure that distance education programs are developed and implemented after going through a market research on the possible takers of the programs. Besides, there should be a standard mechanism for course evaluation and program accreditation. New programs as well as their delivery mechanism or pedagogies need to be considered carefully before implementing them in a different cultural environment or academic environment of the 21st century. Utmost care needs to be taken while imparting education with the help of technology. It has been observed that focus is given more on introducing new technological facilities as everyday new educational technologies are emerging, then on the content to be provided, so that the teaching contents don't get lost due to the technology. Emphasis must be given on instructional design rather than on new technology. Another solution to many of the common problems in open education is that the educators and faculty members employed in various open learning institutes across the country should be involved in the whole process of open and distance learning. Before joining an open learning institute, they should first try to learn the philosophy of open learning. They may take up the program called Postgraduate Diploma in Distance Education conducted by STRIDE or Master in Distance Education offered by the IGNOU for more clarification about the system, that is the distance and open learning system. Many of the existing ICT tools, whether in the internet or otherwise, often face severe limitations in addressing the needs of the learners due to their inability to cope up with the instructors in languages other than the mother tongue. When technology-based learning is introduced, one needs to recognize this fact. If mobile-based distance learning can be ensured, technical barriers shall become a non-issue. Mobile-based learning products can help to resolve many challenges faced by open learning institutions of the present time. The open universities and the directorates of distance education institutions currently functioning in India must remember and understand the fact that the course content of its program is just one part of the education provided to the learners. Therefore, the open learning providers must ensure all institutional support starting from pre and post counseling facilities, academic council, library support to other administrative assistance like on-campus placements and so on. Another most significant development in maintaining the standard of open and distance education may be the focus on establishing more and regional center. ODL institutions seeking to offer their educational programs beyond their location may suffer the lack of the need to address the needs of the students in a specific area. Therefore, regional centers which can act as the mirror of the mother institute located at a distance can cater to the local and specific needs of the learners. This may also reduce the problems of remaining isolated in a global learning environment. Finally, periodical assessment and accreditation of open learning institutions by higher external authorities may help in dictating important pathways to the institutions in a globally competitive educational environment. Commonwealth of Learning Canada offers such a review exercise called COL-RIM exercise, that is the Commonwealth Learning Review and Improvement Model, which may help an ODL institute to identify the faultiness and then take follow-up activities for their betterment of the institution. Similarly, the NAAC, that is the National Assessment and Accreditation Council of UGC, also conducts review and assessment of the enlisted educational institutions by UGC, including the open universities. Such exercise shall surely help in meeting many of the challenges faced by the ODL institution. So, dear friends, till now we have learned that historically open and distance education in general has been facing various challenges that have also affected the reception of the distance learning as inferior to the face-to-face mode. There are various challenges faced by the learners at individual level, the teacher while conducting the session as a facilitator, as well as the institution where the learners are enrolled as a whole. The leadership and the innovative role of the open learning institution is the key factor for ensuring a sustainable, eco-friendly learning environment in the 21st century. However, the biggest challenge, as we have already discussed, has always been the so-called distance, resulting in a serious communication gap. Various undertakings of research and discussion have established the whole system of open distance education as an evolving process. Relating itself to such a background, can the issue of human contact really help in overcoming the hurdles of distance education? Besides, how the human pedagogy can be maintained in open distance learning institutions while delivering the teaching learning mechanism, teaching learning content to the learners or the lifelong learners. Although open and distance education institutions often claim that by introducing various modes of students-friendly ICT support services that can offer an alternative education system, we are not sure whether it has succeeded in providing an alternative mode of education in the context of 21st century due to the many challenges the system is still facing today. So, dear friends, hope from this module you have received a basic idea or understanding on the challenges faced by the open learning system on the part of a learner, on the part of the teacher, and on the part of the learning institute as a whole. In the last module of this course, we are going to discuss the open learning as a resilient means of offering education to all. Till then, bye. See you again and enjoy your learning. Thank you.